Okay, y'all, so I'm gonna do a trial size. I'm gonna do a trial test right now. So I'm just gonna go through the first part of the class of the course, understanding trauma and toxic traits. Okay, so when we talking about understanding trauma and toxic traits, we're gonna go through the different types of traumas that it is. It's several different types of trauma. The first trauma is the physical trauma caused by injuries, accidents, or violence. This is trauma that you can physically see. Okay, this is trauma that you can see like visual, like if somebody got black eyes, or you can visually see the physical body is damaged. This is a trauma that a lot of people think only exists, but in all actuality, is several traumas that exist. But this is the one that most people typically think of when we talk about trauma. Okay, I had an accident. So therefore physical trauma is something that I have experienced. Okay. Violence, no stranger to violence. Okay. Um Next you have emotional or psychological trauma. This is resulting from distressing events such as abuse, loss, or witnessing violence. Okay. Again, I'm no stranger to none of this. Okay. Abuse. But I have not been physically abused. Okay. Emotionally abused, yes. When you talk about something like you have somebody like, oh, you ain't shit, you ain't never gonna be shit, or don't nobody want you, ain't nobody gonna want you, somebody just study chipping away and messing with your emotions. Psychological trauma, witnessing violence. A lot of us have witnessed violence. We've had losses. So a lot of us probably can relate to emotional and psychological trauma. And if you ask me, this type of abuse is one of the worst type of abuse because you can't see it. And so when you cannot see this type of abuse, a lot of people tend to think that, oh, it's nothing to it because you really can't see it. The next type of abuse is sexual trauma. Okay. It says involve unwanted sexual experiences or assaults. So I'm gonna say unwanted and also underage, okay? Because a lot of times you have people that take advantage of people who is underage. Kids, they may be an adult, they may be a trusted figure, and in if they okay, I'm gonna give you an example. When I was younger, um I used to play with these two girls, and they used to live across they didn't live across the street. Their mother was on drugs, and they used to call this man their godfather. Okay, I don't know if he was a godfather or not. He was a older man. He had gray hair. His teeth was missing, and he walked slow. Okay. Now, this man used to do things to us. Okay, he did not penetrate me and the one other girl who was my age, because I think he knew that our mothers would know. It would be easier for them to recognize if he had penetrated us because we was virgins. But he did penetrate the older girl, and he would make her do things to us, like put her mouth on us, and he would also put his mouth on us. Okay, so this is the sexual trauma that I did experience, and later on in my life, I went through a trauma abuse with in this toxic relationship because I used to be quiet for fear, not for fear, but I used to be quiet because I was arguing too much in front of my kids, and I didn't want to keep arguing in front of my kids. So I would just let this man basically do what he wanted to do, and a lot of times he would practically have his way with me. Okay. Next, you have developmental trauma. This occurs in childhood and can affect emotional and psychological development. Okay, so I had this trauma as well, of course, because these things that happened to me, a lot of it happened in my childhood. So it definitely affected me emotionally and psychological. Okay, it affected me emotionally. Like my emotions was all over the place. Okay, I wasn't sure on what I was feeling. I wasn't emotionally stable, and a lot of people is not emotionally stable out here. As you see, a lot of people have emotions that be all over the place. Psychologically, development again, yeah, that was by me experiencing these traumas. I definitely also experienced developmental trauma as well. Complex trauma involves multiple or prolonged traumatic experiences often occurring during childhood. Yes, things happened multiple times. Okay, it was prolonged. It was for a few years. Okay, so I experienced this for a few years. So again, complex trauma. So already I have experienced every trauma that's on here. And the last one, vacuous trauma, experienced indirectly through exposure to others' traumatic events common amongst caregivers or first responders. So, with this, okay, when my son went to juvenile, he went to juvenile, and one day, now he was in juvenile in Will County, okay, and one day I get a phone call, and the phone call was from Loyola, a doctor from Loyola Hospital, and the doctor tells me that your son is here and he's about to go to surgery. And I'm like, what? And he like, yes, they brought him in here. They say he fell out. And the doctor seemed like he was kind of questioning what they were saying. And so I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, he like, they brought him in. So I go and I call, and I call Will County Juvenile Detention Center, and I'm like, what's going on? Is my son at Loyola? And they like, basically, this is our son, okay? This child belongs to us. He is in juvenile detention center. So, of course, y'all, I was like, what the hell is going on? I got in my car. At first, I called back up there, and the nurse was like, you cannot come up here. He is in custody. They're not going to let you see him. Why. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not good. So I get up there, y'all. I get past the front desk. The lady tell me his room number in the front desk. I get up there, and it's on the intensive care burn unit, y'all. And I am freaking out, like, what the fuck? What is going on? Like, so I'm like, oh my God. So I already knew that the nurse wasn't going to let me see him. So I knew that I could not go to that front desk on that floor, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm on this floor. I got the room number. If I could just find a room on my own, I'm not going to be able to ask the nurse. Well, I ended up running into a girl who I used to work with when I was a teenager. And so I started up a conversation with her, like, oh my God, how you doing? what a coincidence, this girl work here. So she started talking to me like, oh, I'm like, yeah, girl, but she didn't know what I was on. I was on a mission. I was going to find my son, right? So upon me talking to her, she started walking with me and talking to me like, girl, yeah, I remember that fool. She used to go with this dude there. And she like, girl, yeah, I remember him. I remember him. So I'm walking and talking to her, y'all. And we come upon, and I'm like, what is room number at? So she like, oh, I'll walk you over there. Okay, bam. So she's starting to walk me over there. I see two nurses outside the room. And so as I'm walking up, the one nurse, which probably was one of the nurses that I had spoke to on the phone, she like she looking like as we coming up, and the girl begins to tell her, oh, she looking for her son, and I already knew that this lady was gonna try to stop me. Okay, so it had I once I got to the room, once I saw where that room was at, I just shot off and went inside the room. Okay, I just shot off and went inside that room to see was my son up in there, y'all, and it was an older man up in there. My son wasn't in there. Okay, so again, so the nurse tells me, she like, okay, you can't go in there, you can't go in there, but I didn't went in there already, y'all. And so she like, okay, go to the front desk, we'll find out. So I'm hysterical. I'm like, please, I need to see what's going on with my son. So she like, go to the front desk. Well, she calls the police on me, okay? So when she calls police on me, thank God it was two black police officers, a woman and a man, and they was very sympathetic to me. Okay, so they was like, I'm like, please, like, I just need to see what's going on with my son. Like, I'm not getting any answers. He was supposed to be in a juvenile detention center, and I'm up here at this hospital. They telling me that this is their son now, when they not giving me any information. And so, they sympathized with me, and they tried to get some sort of information for me, but they couldn't get any information. All they knew was that my son was going into surgery. So I went home, y'all, and for 3 days, I didn't hear anything about my son, y'all. I was devastated, okay? This had really rocked me, okay? Because here it is, I then just got off in the intensive burn unit, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Okay. And so for 3 days, I was down, I was stuck, I was paralyzed with pain. I could not move. I did not know what the hell was going on with my child. So yes, was an experience, and this was within the last 5 years, y'all. So this one definitely hit me and rocked me to my core. They finally called me after 3 days, 3 long days. Everybody had been calling me and checking on me, trying to see what was going on. Y'all, I wasn't talking to anybody until I knew what was going on with my son. And finally, they called me and they said, okay, you could come and see your son. And so I went to see my son. I went in to see my son. And when I went to see him, he told me that one of the things that these juvenile places and these prisons do is they drug these people, okay? They drug these people up. And if y'all think I'm just saying something, like, go and listen to Damon Dash, go and listen to these other inmates. These officers drug these places, these facilities drug these people so they can control them more. This is why they want to make sure that they have a revolving door, that these people continue to come back, okay? It used to be times where I used to talk to my son and I used to be like, why the hell he sounds so high, right? And so one of the things that ended up happening to him was they had given him medication and they had given him over the dosage that he was supposed to take, and he fell out and he hurt himself. And this was what that something that happened to him. So given the fact that my son, this traumatic event had happened, was happening to my son, I was, this is my child. So it was definitely something that I experienced as well. And these are the different types of traumas that people experience.